Alright, boys. I got something to show y'all before we get into this review. I think some of y'all will appreciate it considering recent releases. So, let me know if you guys like it. Here we go. Boom. Evil Dead 2013 disc plate with some nice texture. I just realized that my mic is right here. You probably didn't hear that. But you need not any explanation for what this is. It's obviously a disc plate of 2013's Evil Dead, my personal favorite of the bunch. I just got to find a nice place on the wall to place it. But, hello, hi, I'm back with a review today. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Twisted Childhood universe. I would imagine some of you are probably avid fans, and I would imagine that some of you have no idea what the fuck this is, and probably think it's Pornhub's version of Marvel Cinematic Universe. But it isn't. It is in fact the Pooniverse, a series of films that were started years back, first with Blood and Honey 2, and now we've gone on to riff on other childhood fairy tales. Bambi, Peter Pan, and as of recent, and as of this week, Pinocchio Unstrung. What the fuck even is this? You said cinematic universe. I sure did, my friend. I used the word cinematic universe because what we have here is a series of films that riffs on fables, fairy tales that we grew up on, right? Winnie the Pooh, Bambi, Peter Pan, Tinkerbell, they're all here. And the goal is, in some ways, to bring them back to their original stories of horror, the true grim nature of these stories, with a slasher twist and some insane amounts of campiness, because my god, are these fucking movies campy. Now, the first Blood and Honey isn't much to write home about. It is a film that is, for lack of a better word, ass. They came off the heels of Terrifier, and Terrifier did a thing, which was it let studios know that these kinds of films that we could have gotten away with back in the day are things that people are interested in watching now. Very much so in vein of the grindhouse style of filmmaking. And Terrifier, obviously being the Goliath that it is, Art the Clown, Damien and whatnot, Terrifier has set a trend for extremist, absurdist violence. And, well, what better way to cash in than to grab all of these old grim tales and turn them into the debaucherous slashers that the TCU has turned them into. And again, these are not everybody's cup of tea. I guarantee you, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, one, it hasn't been in your radar, which means you're probably not looking for shit like this. And two, if you do watch it and you think I'm endorsing you to watch it, you're going to hate me for it. Because this is absolutely not the kind of shit that just any horror fan watches. Maybe if you're drunk or high, maybe if you're drunk and high, or maybe you're just like me and you just, anything horror, you will consume for the sake of having something to watch that is horror leaning. And these films started off as kind of a joke. To me, especially with part one, I was like, what in the ever-living fuck am I watching? I'm sure there are a myriad of things that I could be doing right now. Watching this is not one of them. And somehow I found myself marathoning these films, all but the last one, Bambi, which is still one I've yet to see. And I will say that with every installment, these films get better in production, cinematography, in style, and in budget. And I'm almost impressed that this franchise has continued on for as long as it fucking has, with as many films, and its consistency is admirable. God damn. Think about how many movies have a hard time just getting past the sequel. past the first one. Think about any TV show that has a hard time just getting past the pilot. This movie has this cinematic universe, because you got to use cinematic universe, has prevailed against all odds, and we are here, and there are many more to come, and this is all building up to a cinematic experience akin to that of Avengers against Thanos. You heard that right. There is a Thanos in this universe, and every one of these films is tied into what is essentially Avengers meets Freddy versus Jason. That is what we're going for here. This will all build up to a confrontation that will, I believe, as of now, release July of next year, July 28th, I believe. And the survivors of every single one of these films will be pitted against these villains, these classic grim creatures. And not just that, but then they will also be pit against themselves. Listen, man, I've not gotten Freddy versus Jason 2. I'm never going to get that. So I'll take whatever I can get. Fuck it. Robert Englund is actively playing cricket in this, and I'm not mad. They went as far as to give him the razor knives, the finger knives. Like, we're in, baby. With all that build up to say, Pinocchio is the latest installment, and the story follows Geppetto and his grandson live in a house together. His grandson James' parents have died, his best friend has died, and so Geppetto takes it upon himself to build him a friend, someone who can't die, someone named Pinocchio. And what we have is a movie about Pinocchio, more leaning towards the brutality and the darkness and the grimness of the original tale, but with all the slasher campiness that has been foundational to this series, to the series' existence. One thing that really impressed me, and I will fucking go out to bat on this, Pinocchio's practical effects, his prosthetics, everything that they have done to realize Pinocchio is absolutely astounding. And it should be, because the man behind this is the man behind Child's Play. And you can tell, my God, everything he's ever learned throughout the years has been fully applied here on such an expert level. I mean, Pinocchio looks impressive. Every movement is reminiscent of Chucky, the best of Chucky in terms of practical effects. Every step, every micro gesture of the face. And, you know, Pinocchio is made out of tree bark, and it doesn't lose that sense of texture while you're watching it. Yet it implicitly demonstrates this sense of movement and facial expression that I was like truly impressed with. And, you know, that's one way to get me, as I know these movies are campy as fuck, satirical as hell, and over the top in ways that anyone who's not prepared for it will absolutely, without a doubt, say it is the biggest pile of shit they have ever seen. But for the people who this is for, I think this is going to make you very happy. I think I already know what to expect, so I wasn't expecting more outside of what I've already been given. And these films fill a very... They fill this hole in my heart. Not that I love them, but this is very much a DIY kind of project that's grown up to be this crazy extravaganza. I mean, we have people like Robert Englund and Richard Brake, two horror legends in this movie, giving it their all. Richard Brake plays Geppetto, and of course you see him in a movie and you go, oh, that's an awfully sweet Geppetto. All right, cut the shit. When is he gonna go and turn into the real Geppetto? And we're not disappointed. Motherfucker is a psychopath, but he plays it with such elation and such glee, and then I was happy to watch him. And so there are so many wonderful things about this movie in terms of classic horror. There are references to the Puppet Master franchise, all right? Which, I mean, I've seen every single one from best to shit. And I gotta tell you, it was a pleasure to see something give those films a little nudge of acknowledgement. because no one talks about those movies. I'm waiting for someone to give Wishmaster a nudge. I mean, come on, man. Those movies should have been bigger. But they sort of stuck. They're stuck in this sort of cult status, which is totally fine. But even by cult status standards, I feel like they don't get talked about enough. Child's Play being kind of the biggest one because the movements of Pinocchio are so reminiscent of like all the masterworks that we've seen in terms of the best of Chucky. The film is stupid. It's fucking dumb. All right, this movie lives in the camp. It bathes in the camp. It consumes the camp. It spits it right the fuck out at you. This is as campy as it gets. And some over-the-top shit is literally just for the sake of violence. If you're not into it, if you're not into Terrifier, you're not going to be into this. What I will say that I think this has for some people over Terrifier is that while Terrifier is building its own mythos, and, you know, some take it, some leave it. I personally take it. I do very much love me some Art the Clown. But to some people, right, there might be a little bit more appeal to these movies because they get to point out references to the old Grimm tales. And I think out of all of the films that have come out in this TCU madness, the one that calls back to the original story the most is this one, with its brutality and its kind of exceptional understanding of the dark side of Pinocchio, right? Like the innocence factor and how innocence could be corrupted by instruction, right? And how that instruction typically comes from a father figure or someone that you love, someone that loves you back. But, you know, just because they love you doesn't make them a good person, right? It's not about them loving you. It's about the way in which they love you. And I think this movie, maybe it was by accident, or maybe it was just the nature of the beast that this is, you know, the protagonist is, well, the protagonist is Pinocchio, that you kind of just pick up on those things. You can't make a Pinocchio film without so much as even touching on those things just a bit. You know, what I liked about this movie is that, one, the practical effects are phenomenal and everyone's at the top of their game. Brake and Englund are just fun to watch on the most menacing level, but and Englund as Cricket was fucking phenomenal. Little hints of Freddy, of course. You could see they gave Cricket some really sharp nails that looked like razor fingers, I think I already mentioned. But what I like about this film is that if you really think about the story of Pinocchio, this is kind of as good as it gets. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Guillermo del Toro's animated version of it, very much so. But this doesn't, you know, this doesn't touch that at all. So it's nothing like that. But I was happy to see that even though it's campy and completely over the top in terms of violence, and the violence is full bore, over the top, but it's all practical. Even the violence here, some of the gore here is kind of astounding, but it's all practical. And what I loved is at the end of the credits, they showed you something that we don't get often, is the director and everyone on set playing with the blood and the practical effects, and you really get to see it for yourself. Like, these things are practical. There is a love in this set, on this set, for the horror, for the character, for what they're building, and most importantly, something you don't see that kind of gets lost in big productions is just the love of the game. All right, the fun and the love that happens on set. I've been a part of many movie productions, both small and big, you know, something as simple as being a PA. The love isn't always felt, and the bigger the production, the less love there is to feel. And in the credits, you see them playing with the practical effects, with the blood, laughing about what they're doing, knowing that it's dumb, but there's still there's a love there. They're doing it because they've found their audience. Their audience will show up. And it's allowed them to be this far into this silly fucking franchise that you really does at this point have a lot to love if you've made it this far. This is not going to be your favorite franchise of all time, right? Well, I'm assuming. But if you've made it this far, you know what you're here for, and you're going to get what you want. But this one, I think, out of all of them, has the most in terms of the reflection of the character that we are following, the antagonist. Geppetto's obsession with life and death is something that is incredibly expressed in this film as his through line. All his gestures of kindness come with a menace to understand from grief, which I thought was like it's a simple villain, but it's cool to maybe dive into that mentality enough to see Geppetto as this guy who like has intentions that are good, but his execution is diabolical. And that was fun to have Break sort of to watch Break play this character, which eventually you're waiting, because it's Break. You're waiting for the fucking shoe to drop. You're just waiting for that to happen. The kid here, James, who befriends Pinocchio, it's actually really great. I don't typically like give kid actors a lot of flowers. It's like, well, they're learning and they're they're some of them just kind of they're kids. They're gonna read the lines and hope that for the best, right? And there's some kids out there that just kind of do great, and I really enjoyed the main kid here's performance. His performance was really good. He was funny when he needed to be, and he was emotive a lot of the time, and dramatic when he needed to be, and he was just great. He carried the movie. His friends were not as great, but nonetheless, the kind of movie you kind of overlook it. You're like, oh, fuck it, whatever. When's the next kill? And then you get that like every 10 minutes there is a incredibly produced, practically based gore kill. There's a couple of kills here that like I don't typically like cover my eyes but man, when I like a kill, I'm reactive, and maybe there's like 2 or 3 occasions where my mouth and my jaw unhinged. I was like, oh, that's fucking gnarly, dude. That is so creative. And with that comes this sort of body horror element to Pinocchio where, he feels like in order to become, right, human, he has to take human parts from people and put it in himself. Kind of like the Creeper from Jeepers Creeper. There's this insane portion of the film where he is murdering and applying on himself things that clearly make it easy to pay ode to things like Leatherface. And there was a scene that was just ridiculous. I think the third act of this movie, I think the last 35 to 40 minutes of this movie, so insane that you laugh from the absurdity, you laugh from the abrupt humor, you laugh at the campiness, you laugh at the insanely good gore, because the gore here is actually excellent. And there's moments when the movie does well the most. For me, it impressed me the most when it lent itself to sort of taking itself seriously. Like, in a lot of ways, the mythos of Pinocchio and his lore and his story kind of poses itself as a horror film, both psychological horror and slasher in many ways. And they touch on those moments, especially in the third act, when it leans more into the serious nature of it, where you're like, oh, well, like if they played this entire thing seriously with these practical effects, holy fuck, we might have something here. And it doesn't always land when the camp is front and center. My God, sometimes it's so over the top. You're like, your eyes are fucking twitching at the cringiness of it all. But I don't know, man. There's a sweetness to it. Irony, because this movie's fucking bloody as hell. So when I mean sweetness, there's just a kindness to the amount of work that's being put into this film. Like, there is no, like, oh, that's too much, let's pull back. Or that's too campy, let's pull back. Or that's too cringy, let's pull... No, there's no too much. We've made it this far, this many movies. People are showing up for all of it, and they just went, bleh. And you get it all. And it's fun, man. I had a lot of fun watching this movie. I'm not going to tear it apart, because I think it unironically does a lot of really great shit. And it does a lot of really great shit really fucking well. And then sometimes when it doesn't work, it's not going to work. This is just what happens when you have no one, behind the fucking behind the camera telling you, not that, not that. This is clearly a labor of love that has grown because it has equally laboriously loving, can I say that? Laboriously loving cult followers. And if you follow it as much as I have at this point, you get it. And you enjoy it, and you stay for the Avengers style post-credit scene, which, yes, there is one here, and my God, I kind of was like, yeah, I'm showing up for that. So again, if this isn't your kind of film, if even remotely doesn't sound like your kind of film, just don't fucking watch it. Because if you watch it and you come to me and say, you piece of shit, this is the worst fucking thing I've ever seen, I told you I'm not endorsing you to see it. If you've already made it this far, this review's probably for you. If you've been remotely curious and you're someone that like me, at a point was very skeptical, I will tell you this. Meet it on its own terms. Meet it at its front door. Let it sit you down. Make you some fucking, some fucking some warm cookies and milk, and just enjoy it. Just fucking enjoy it, because there's a lot as a horror lover to love here, especially the gore and the practical effects. And if you're someone who loves the grim tales, I think this does a lot more for the spirit of those grim tales than a lot of the recent iterations of stuff like this, where they're trying to paint it as the child-friendly thing that they've never been until Disney decided to skull fuck it. So that's all I've got for you. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. As always, there is more to come. I've got one more review for you before the big Spider-Man review that I have later this week. Of course, the review waiting for you guys is also horror, just like this one. We make minor exceptions here, and Spider-Man's definitely one of them. So anyway, thank you guys for showing up to this review. I appreciate you supporting me as long as you have, as regularly as you have, and as consistently as you have. It does not go unnoticed, and I am genuinely humbled. One last time, thank you, and as always, I will see you at the movies.